The painting is about trees. The light will be there behind the trees, drawing you in. What I'm trying to do in my art is really try to get to that place where I can get to the light behind the trees and have that glow reflect on what you see before you. I just really trying to go towards that light. I really cannot explain why it's so attractive to me. Hi there, I'm Nancy Lloyd, and I'm a landscape painter. Living in Connecticut, we moved to England, which the buildings there, the architecture, the colors, you have the lush greens of the grasses and the trees, and you've got the sandy colored buildings, and it was just so verdant. And then from there, we moved to the Philippines, which is actually where I started painting. The Philippines, of course, is a perfect tropical place to be. So you have the electric blues of the water and the sand, and you also have the bright colors and the bright sun. And in the Philippines, they work with other kinds of materials than you might be used to here. So they're working with shell, and they're working with eggshells. They're working with all different sorts of materials. And so it just feels very creative. And at that point, I joined an art group where I was in my first exhibit. Hong Kong is subtropical, so it has all of the Chinese influences of red colors, gold colors, and especially Chinese New Year. The plum blossoms during Chinese New Year. The Chinese New Year festival is so colorful, and it's so very different in terms of having pagodas on each block where you can see, you know, they're just small, but the influence is there. And again, the architecture is so very different, so very Asian, and Hong Kong is such an approachable city. So I like to say that it's big enough to be exciting, but it's small enough not to be intimidating. So someone like me can feel comfortable going there and being in a crowd of people. Chinese people, which I don't look Chinese, and I'm sure to them I didn't mix in, but I never felt like I didn't mix in. So it was amazing. So our art group that we had there, it was a much larger group. There were between 20 or 25 people, and there were many different nationalities. So you would have the person from South Africa painting herds of elephants, or you have someone who's working with dots, just small dots. We had one artist from Korea who did installation art of giant lips and giant Q-tips. So, so it was, you were exposed to so many different kinds of ideas and things that a Western person may not may think of, but on the other hand, may not. So the one really extreme example that I can think of is Martine, who was French, and she was a circus acrobat as her day job, but the paintings that she would paint, she would cover her nude body with paints and roll on the canvas, and that's how she would create her art. So it was just, you know, an immersion into all different kinds of art. So after Hong Kong, we moved to Connecticut, and so the town that we lived in was New Canaan, Connecticut, but there's an area there that's called Silver Mine, and 100 years ago, maybe, they had a silver mine post office, and they had their own little general store, and it was an actual little town. But now that's been taken over by these three neighboring towns, New Canaan, Norwalk, and Wilton. So I lived in New Canaan and lived just a 10-minute walk away from the very wonderful Silver Mine Art Guild and school. And so I was taking lessons there, and that's where I met David Dunlop, who is one of the key inspirations for my art technique. He teaches the method of using transparent paints, and it was just really a revelation. So I still have some influences from the Hong Kong days in terms of like painting a landscape in a portrait. That's very much Chinese, to have landscapes that are not horizontal but rather vertical. So I still have some of that, but then there's this overlay of using that kind of material, the transparent paints, and just the encouragement to use all different surfaces. So paper, linen, dye bond, which is enamelized aluminum, vellum, rock, you know, anything. So there's just such a inventive and creative atmosphere. And David Dunlop, I have to say that he is the most generous teacher and kind, you know, so his students are just so loyal and thankful. On my canvas, it's a trip that you're taking towards the light. So if the painting is about trees, the light will be there behind the trees, drawing you in. If the painting is about the canal, the light will be down at the end of the canal, drawing you in. And I just really am trying to go towards that light. I really cannot explain why it's so attractive to me, except that like the view that you get here, you will see the sun setting behind the trees, and the light is still coming through, even though the trees are in the way. and it's this golden glow, and the golden glow just covers everything. And so what I'm trying to do in my art is really try to get to that place where I can get to the light behind the trees and have that glow reflect on what you see before you. And so it's been difficult to balance how dark do you make the foreground, how light do you make it in the background. I definitely would encourage everyone to come to FICUS and see the artwork that's there, and it's very carefully curated. They spend time carefully choosing the pieces that they're going to show. And for this show in particular, where it's my work plus Annelies van Domelen and Annabelle Bauza, I think it's a very interesting show. The work is so different. We're all so different from each other, but yet FICUS has managed to come up with a theme that suits each of us and has really tied the show together. So yes, please come see the show.